Caleb Williams has committed to transfer to USC. We got to talk about it. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a stuck mill. Thank you for subscribing to the #1 ranked show with RJ Young. This is a special VOD segment of the show, and we got to talk about Caleb Williams, who has decided to transfer from Oklahoma to USC. There was lots of conversation over the weekend about Caleb Williams perhaps transferring to USC because he was spotted in Los Angeles for the Los Angeles Rams games, which ended up being a very good one between them and the 49ers. Deebo Samuel was amazing. But also, we're looking at this because on Monday, the day of the national championship game, USC quarterback Jackson Dart decided to enter his name into the transfer portal. Now, caveat is always, just because you enter the portal does not mean that you won't return to the team for which you were entering to go away from. You wanted to see what else was out there. But that doesn't usually happen. It has, but it's not likely to happen. So when I first talked about Caleb Williams and his decision to enter the transfer portal, two things I said. One is, the dude's gone, okay? Like, there were some Oklahoma fans that were in denial about this. Nah, man, you don't date other people when you're married unless you're just that kind of, despicable person. That's not usually how that goes. You usually, at least on the surface, want to get separation going before you finalize a divorce. And if you are divorced, and I've been divorced or am divorced, you understand what I'm getting at. It's not to go at people about what their idea of marriage is. It's just an analogy, right? But it also factors into, one is a job and one is not. And I get that, right? So if you want to look at it from the job standpoint, people interview for other jobs while they have a job all the time. But if your employer finds out about that, they might feel some kind of way about that, right? It's not necessarily all in the game. But Jackson Dart entering the transfer portal also would lead many of us to make the logical conclusion that Caleb Williams decided he was going to commit to transfer to USC, and Jackson Dart might not have liked that. Now, for Dart, this is the 2020 National Gatorade Player of the Year coming out of Corner Canyon, which is also where Zach Wilson came out of. He is now the most coveted quarterback in the transfer portal. And much like Caleb Williams, if you can get him, you go get him. If you have an opening, you want Jackson Dart to fill it. He's that good. He can help you. I also think this is really interesting because at the time, it felt like Dart would fit right in with what Riley wants to do and the kind of offense that he wants to run. When I thought about Caleb Williams going to USC, I'm like, why would you go there if Jackson Dart is still there? I did not think that Jackson Dart wouldn't be Lincoln Riley's guy. Now, I also acknowledge Lincoln Riley recruited Caleb Williams to Oklahoma and is familiar with Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams is familiar with his system. I get all of that. I also thought that Jackson Dart had the intellect and the ability to be that guy, okay? Apparently, Lincoln Riley did not necessarily feel that to be the case, or at least he wanted Caleb Williams to go to battle with Jackson Dart. And for that matter, Miller Moss for the starting gig at USC, who I think is going to start the season as a top 25 program because of how they've been able to recruit here the last 3 weeks, and also because Lincoln Riley has a pedigree where you just have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't matter that it's Oklahoma so much that it matters he's won, right? And I think that's one of the reasons that he was so attractive to USC in the first place. And then you look at the staff, half of his 10 assistants coached for him, worked for him at Oklahoma at one point or another, right? Whether it be Dennis Simmons, who gets the title of assistant head coach, which is a title that neither coordinator shares, right? That's how integral to the offense and recruiting Dennis Simmons has been as outside receivers coach. You also add in there inside linebackers coach Brian Odom, defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, outside linebackers corners coach Roy Manning. I hesitated there because there are jokes in there, and I'm going to let y'all fill those in if you feel the need to tell those jokes. And, of course, Zach Hanson, who was a senior offensive analyst at Oklahoma before becoming the offensive line coach at my alma mater, Tulsa, and is now the tight ends coach at USC. I think they have talent, but I've always thought USC has talent. Like, I thought USC was going to be a great program last year when Clay Helton was running it because I just looked at the dudes that they had. But you had some things happen. You had some turnover. You had some injuries. I still think that it's USC. And While I don't believe that USC is the mecca for college football or will be, I think that's in Tuscaloosa. Hello. I do believe that USC could compete with Utah for the Pac-12 South crown and eventually for the Pac-12 South championship. So these are all things to keep at the top of mind as we think about Caleb Williams and what he decided to do. But one of the other reasons I thought this was interesting is the Williamses had bought a house in Norman, and apparently it's not that big a deal. I always think of buying a house as, putting down roots somewhere or at least wanting to stay there for some length of time. But I also come from a tradition that is uniquely black in that my parents don't own a house, right? I own my home. It's a very big deal to me. It's a very big deal to me to be from Tulsa and to live in Tulsa. I really enjoy home ownership, and I put a premium on it. I think of it as a bigger deal than where you play college football. That's just me. And maybe I make an evaluation there that some other people just make differently. It's not right or wrong, it's just differently. And that informs my opinion about things. I also think it's interesting because Caleb Williams wasn't Lincoln Riley's first pick. Now, you'll remember Brock Vandegrift committed to Oklahoma as part of that 2021 class in June, I believe it's 2019. Before breaking that commitment, I want to say in January 2020, he's at Georgia where they played for a national championship. And then from Shane Beamer, who had really great success recruiting in the Maryland area, right, that DMV area, you got Caleb Williams' number coming out of Gonzaga College. Caleb Williams said, hey, look, I would have walked on at Oklahoma even if Brock was there, because that's how much he wanted to work with, play for Lincoln Riley. That seems to be the overarching reason for why Caleb Williams would make a decision to go to USC, quite honestly. I find that to be fascinating because it does put more of a premium on who the coach is and less of a premium on where the university is, where even your house is, or what your ties to that university might be as an alumnus, right? Because we know so many players draw on being a former for their careers and for their business ventures. Quite honestly, like where you go to school matters, especially if you want to be a part of that local market. And you can make an argument that the local market at USC is the national one because it's in Los Angeles, and there's so many executives, entertainment executives, that went to school there and want to see it do well, right? Like you were rubbing shoulders with Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, in addition to Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart at Big Noon, right? It's a very big deal. We'll see how this all actually works out once he gets on the campus and what they look like in the spring. But I'm interested to see just how much Caleb Williams is able to do at USC and what Lincoln Riley is able to do at USC in their first year together. All right. If you like the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Doses.